Welcome back to the Operation Freedom YouTube channel. What we do here is shine the light of truth on the deep state. They hate that. We do it figuratively with our presentations. We do it literally with our sponsor's product, PatriotLegacy.com. PatriotLegacy.com, featured product of theirs, the Patriot Beacon. 6 overall lighting functions. In addition, solar powered, don't need batteries. You can charge your other devices like your phone from it. In addition, you got a compass, you got a window breaking hammer, and you got a seatbelt cutter. Plus, if those deep state dweebs get just a little bit too close to you, blast them with this. They're gone. Go to patrioticlegacy.com, patrioticlegacy.com. Get yourself, your kids, your grandkids, your car. Can carry it with you anytime. patrioticlegacy.com, the Patriot Beacon. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and welcome back to Wham Talk 1600's Operating Theater. It's the only OR in all talk radio. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from, our accessory bunker. We are still in Commandant Klink Wintmer's lockdown scenario. It appears all the way for another month. I'm broadcasting from our accessory freedom bunker. My wingman, Derek Stone, remains at our freedom bunker at Wham Talk 1600, hidden deep inside the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We're here every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 Eastern. And we're also available at our following locations 24/7. Our YouTube channel, also named Operation Freedom, just like this radio show, where we upload a couple new YouTube presentations every week. In addition, we're available on our website, davejanda.com. We have the free, the public side, as well as a subscription side with extra shows, extra content, extra guests, extra analysis, all the archives for this show all the way back to 2010, as well as the archives for our WTF show and our Insider Insight show, all available for a mere 30 cents a day. Sign up for a month. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. It's worth 10 times that amount, maybe 100 times that amount in just 1 month. Give it a try. Become part of our freedom family, because if it was not for our subscribers, this radio show, the YouTube channel, and the website, davejanda.com, would have been deep sixed a couple years ago. Please join us. Become part of our freedom family. Bottom line, folks, every week in our operating room, we dissect current events that are impacting you, your family, your business, our country, and actually our world. We bring to our operating room information and guests the bought-off lamestream fake media either ignores because it doesn't fit into their preconceived, politically correct, bought-off agenda, or because, folks, they're petrified. They're petrified of what might happen if they actually tell you what you need to know. This show is about your freedom. Every aspect of your freedom. A little health update. With this show, our Easter show, Wham Talk 1600, is always closed on that Sunday. So this segment is a new segment. And the remainder of our show will be a best of, which is what we always do on Easter Sunday. We will be having Paul Rosenberg speaking about the deep state surveillance game today. Pat Wood, who dissects China, the deep state's technocracy model. This is so appropriate based on all that's been going on with this coronavirus. I'm going to be doing a segment on, how the globalists in Congress, with D's after the name and some R's after their name, remember, they're all from one political party, the Republican Party, about how they want to open the borders and actually pay for illegals that have already been moved out of our country to come back and have a second chance. Oh, it's so heartwarming. In addition, we have Helen Chapman, who speaks about the smoke and mirrors of Wall Street. She is the litigator who helped bring down Bernie Madoff, wants to bring down some big banks on Wall Street that continue to rip every American off. And in the last segment, it's with my friend Bob Mazur, former undercover DEA agent who was the quarterback of the team that brought down Pablo Escobar and the Medellin drug cartel. Bob's life has been an incredible journey. He has been put in incredibly stressful situations. And Bob brings to you all of his training over 30 years of how to deal with coping and stressing, to avoid stressing, and avoid panic. It is really a great show, and I hope you'll stay for the entire show. because, again, another guarantee. You will never hear, read, or experience any of this information presented today in the bought-off lamestream fake media. It is Easter. It is the highest of holy days in the Christian faith. It is about the resurrection. It's about the future. The title of this segment is Time to Make America Resurrect Again. We tend to think that our current situation is, well, the only time we've actually ever gone through something like this in our country, with thousands of people dying, thousands of people in the hospital, whose lives were taken needlessly. Usually this needless taking of lives occurs in a military event. A military event that, well, could well have had its origins with the globalist syndicate, the New World Order crowd, the deep state, however you want to refer to them. My dad, I quote my dad again, he used to say in times of trouble, panic is easy, but a measured, rational approach is what is really difficult in those tough times. It's time for us not to panic, but to be measured and to be rational. Let's compare what's happened so far in our country. You've had thousands of people die. Thousands more are in the hospital fighting for their lives. There is still this underlying theme that the virus is a hoax, that it doesn't exist. It's minimally virulent. No. To those who are vulnerable, underlying pre-existing conditions, the elderly, those who are immunocompromised. In fact, what we're seeing here in Detroit is that those that have diabetes, obesity, are running a much higher risk of getting the virus. The Detroit metropolitan area is a viral hotspot. It has been now for several weeks. I know this for a fact. As you know, I had emergency surgery. I detached my retina a little over a week ago. And I had a bird's eye, or maybe a one-eyed bird's eye view of what was happening in one of the major medical centers. The virus is real. And when it hits that certain population, the vulnerable population, it hits hard. Much harder than the influenza A or B, influenza B strains of viruses. It hits hard. And it can be devastating. It also usurps a tremendous amount of not only personal protective equipment, but personnel, who each and every one of those docs and nurses and therapists and those who work in the hospital puts every one of those individuals' lives on the line. And we all should be grateful for what they're doing and how they're doing it. But we're winning this battle, much to the chagrin of the deep state. I have said this on the subscription platform. I will not go into depth because I don't want to have some adverse situation develop by the deep state members at the senior executive level that are senior executive service level that are still in the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. But I do believe that the name I've given this virus, the freedom-stripping virus, was meant, and not accidentally, to stop the freedom movement in Hong Kong as it was sweeping into mainland China. And then it was walked into our country. The death toll is much larger than September 11, 2001. The casualty, if you will, those injured by this, is larger than the final statistics and data from September 11, 2001. But let's put this in perspective. I have a list of the casualties that America and Americans have sustained in a number of events, and how at every single time, in the depths of darkness of those folks who died and those who were injured, America and Americans resurrected themselves. And it's time again for that to occur. Look at the American Revolutionary War from 1775 to 1783. 50,000 Americans died. That was 1% of the population. 1%. 1% of 320 million would be 3 million Americans die in 2020 terms. This virus has been devastating, and it has shut down our economy. But it's not the biggest hit our country has ever taken. In the Civil War from 1861 to 1865, 1,032,000 Americans died, 2.4% of the population. That would be close to 7 million deaths in the year 2020. But yet, after the Civil War, after the Revolutionary War, and all those fatalities, all those casualties, we resurrected ourselves. World War I, 320,000 Americans were casualties. World War II, 1,076,000 Americans were casualties. Yet, we found a way to look toward the future, to look for a brighter future, and to resurrect ourselves. The Korean War, 128,000 Americans were casualties. And in Vietnam, 211,000 Americans were casualties. Now you might say, well, Dave, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, those were all on foreign soil. Civil War wasn't, correct, and the American Revolutionary War wasn't. But we really, in recent terms, we really haven't met an enemy on our own shores. Well, we actually met a viral enemy with the Spanish flu in 1917 to 1918. 675,000 Americans died from the Spanish flu. And it's interesting. When you look at the statistics with the Spanish flu, it was not just those who were immunocompromised or those who had, if you will, diabetes or cardiac disease or pulmonary disease, let alone bone marrow problems and the like. Not just the elderly. And granted, with coronavirus, it does strike at all age groups, but predominantly those over 65 years of age and greater. The Spanish flu attacked three particular age groups: those less than 5 years of age, those from 20 to 40 years of age, and those greater than 65 years of age. Yet we found a way to look to the future and build upon what we learned from each and every one of those events. And we did that. And we gained. We became the most dominant superpower in the world. Why? I believe many reasons why. But the underlying reason why is because the framework that had been put in place, the foundation of this country, by those masters in the 1770s, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, their foundation was based on freedom and liberty. Freedom and liberty. And that's what makes this virus so tough to deal with. Because as I've outlined, I've named it the freedom-stripping virus. It stopped the freedom movement cold in Hong Kong and in mainland China. And it stripped every American of most of the freedoms that we had been currently enjoying for all of our lifetimes. But now it is time to do what all those did after the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and after the Spanish flu. It's time to resurrect ourselves and our country. How do we do that? We go back to Ben Janda's statement. A measured, rational response. An approach. A measured, rational approach is based on data and facts. It's not based on political gainsmanship. That's what the deep state wants. Because if we try to base our resurrection on political gamesmanship, the freedom-stripping virus will permanently have a home in our country. On DaveJanda.com, I posted a contributing editor's piece by former senator from the state of Michigan, Pat Colbeck. It's for free. If you go to DaveJanda.com and look for the contributing editor's piece right on the homepage, it's an excellent presentation by Pat, a written presentation, and you can download it, print it out, and hand it out. And use it to hold all those political hacks out there feet to the fire of what needs to be done based on facts and data. Look, Pat is an aeronautical engineer. He's an aerospace engineer. He's a data-driven person. He actually ran for governor in the primary this past time. Unfortunately, he lost to what the established blue blood establishment wanted, who was beyond a poor candidate, who ran a poor campaign against Commandant Clink Whitmer. You see, I believe if Pat Colbeck had won, we wouldn't be in this mess today in Michigan as a viral hotspot. And as I've outlined before, Commandant Clink Whitmer was so consumed about becoming the number 2 person on the Joe Biden ticket, she allowed that primary on March 10th to happen. It just so happens she issued her state of emergency for the state, I believe 2 hours after the polls closed. Yeah, she had to get that primary in because she had to get her buddy Joe across the finish line to push Bernie out of the running. And her payment is to be considered as the number 2 slot. And then she went on this political tirade against the President of the United States who's fighting this battle. And she went on a tirade against you, every citizen of Michigan, and every citizen of our country. She, as I've outlined before, practiced medicine without a license and threatened providers, docs, pharmacists, anyone who came in contact with a patient, that if they even thought about using hydroxychloroquine and a Z-Pak on someone that had coronavirus, well, guess what? Oh, there is no place for you. No, we're going to have administrative action against you. Now, as I mentioned last week, if it were not for you who put heat on the governor, and if it were not for the subscribers who allowed me to have this platform, I believe thousands more people in the state of Michigan would have died and thousands more across the country, because every governor was watching what was going to happen when she pulled that totalitarian stunt. Well, the freedom fighters and one single reporter from the Detroit News and all of you from the Operation Freedom platform shut Commandant Clink Whitmer down. So as we resurrect ourselves for the future, let's make sure that we don't listen to those politicians who tried to practice medicine without a license. That would be Commandant Clink Whitmer. Let's not listen to the oligarchs like Bill Gates, who has a vested financial interest in antivirals and in vaccinations. He's another guy who's been practicing medicine without a license. He needs to stop. Let's not listen to scientists who have financial ties to Big Pharma, that they get a cut of the action when the next vaccination or the next antiviral comes out. Let's make all of those scientists that are involved in decision-making about opening up the economy and moving forward, let's make sure that they sign disclosure agreements, that they have no financial ties to any product. Not just now, but for the next 20 years. Who do we listen to? Objective scientists and medical professionals who have no ties to Big Pharma, vaccinations, antivirals, or anything that's going to make any money out of this. We need to listen to folks that are going to analyze what is happening in other countries, and then we can apply it to our country. Let's not have to reinvent the wheel. We can listen to politicians as long as they are driven by data and facts and not political expediency. And by the way, Detroit Rep says hydroxychloroquine, Trump helped save her life amid coronavirus fight. A Democratic state representative from Detroit, God love her, State Representative Karen Whitsett, she attributes her living to the fact that President Trump brought attention to hydroxychloroquine, which as she was withering away and having more and more difficulty breathing, she learned of hydroxychloroquine through President Trump. Meanwhile, Commandant Clink Whitmer blocked treatment. Well, she got her doctor to prescribe it. And guess what? She's alive today and singing the praises of all those who put her life and every person's life in our country ahead of their own political ambitions. Go to DaveJanna.com. Look at that article by Senator Pat Colbeck about what we need to do to resurrect our country and open our economy and open our lives and bring back freedom to each and every American. Thanks for joining me today. Now we're going to go on with the show. Dream big and dare to fail.